Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler, and today I have a quick tip video for you. If you are new to homeschooling or considering homeschooling, this is important, so you need to listen up. Many of you know from watching some of my other videos that I am a former teacher. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and I taught in the classroom for about 8 years before I decided to become a stay-at-home mom. I had a business that I ran out of my house. I had a handmade business, and then I became a business coach, and now I'm a content creator for this channel full-time. It's been a whole big thing. So today I really want to focus in on your education, not your kids' education, but your education. So there is this myth that unless you have a 4 to 8 year college degree and 15 years of experience, that you are unqualified to teach your own children. Now, I'm here as an educator and as someone who holds a degree to tell you that there is nothing further from the truth than that statement. And a lot of people use that as scare tactics to try to convince people to put their kids in public school, or to make themselves feel better because they put their kids in public school. So you don't have to listen to the critics when they say, oh, well, you're not a teacher, how can you teach your kids? Because a lot of people will say that. It's kind of funny how people just don't have a filter sometimes when it comes to homeschooling and education, and people feel like they have a right to give you their opinion about your child's education. And you will find that you will run into that a lot. I've just learned to have thick skin, so I guess that's kind of why it just rolls off my back at this point. But I want you to remember, you do not have to have a 4-year college degree to teach your own children. They'll tell you after going to public school for 12 years that you are unqualified to teach your own children after going through the entire system. So now you need to put your kids in the system that made you unqualified to teach your own kids, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, does it? So usually that's what I come back with. I'll ask them, you know, well, why would I want to put my kids back into the system that made them unqualified to teach after being taught by that system for 12 years? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And usually that will trip them up and they'll have to think about that for a few minutes. Now, as somebody who went to college for education, I can tell you right now, we did not learn hardly a thing about teaching kids in college, because they said, oh, well, that was what our OJT was for. That was our on-the-job training. When I went to college, we basically just read books. I learned about the developing brain and how children's brain works. I learned a lot of child psychology. I listened to a lot of opinions about war because I went to college in the very early 2000s. So I got to hear a lot of opinions about that, which had nothing to do with my education. I read Shakespeare, I read children's books, and honestly, I didn't do a whole lot more than I'm doing now. I'm still reading textbooks, I'm still reading children's books. But did they teach me how to do real classroom management, or did they teach me how to teach kids? Not even in the slightest. So don't think that you're missing out on something because you didn't go to college for 4 years and get a bachelor's degree in elementary education like I did, because they did not teach me the real ins and outs of how to teach children in college. Now, maybe your college experience is different than mine, because I know somebody's going to be screaming at me in the comments, well, your college is bad, blah, blah, whatever. I actually went to a very good college. I did. I went to an excellent college down south, and one of the best colleges down south for education, which I keep private because, you know, I'm on YouTube and that's my private information. I don't want people like, you know, digging into my records or anything, because that's kind of creepy, but people out there will do stuff like that, and that's kind of weird. But I went to a good college and they didn't teach me any of that. I learned a lot of that stuff through experience, but I felt so unqualified my first couple of years in a classroom because I felt like I was just thrust into this environment and I just had to figure it all out. So don't feel like when you first start homeschooling that you're kind of just thrust into that environment and teachers aren't, because they are too. It's just one of those things you have to figure out as you go. And honestly, it's so much easier to do it with your kids in your own home than it is in a classroom with 30 kids that you've never met before, and you have to teach them all of these things. So it's so much easier, honestly, to homeschool than it is to be in the classroom. But a lot of the things are the same too. I don't want you thinking that you are unqualified because you don't have a piece of paper to put on the wall that you paid $40,000 for. Because quite honestly, it doesn't make me a better homeschool mom that I have just because I have that. I will tell you straight up, it does not make me a better homeschool parent just because I have a teaching degree and you don't. And quite honestly, it hinders me in a lot of different ways where it wouldn't hinder somebody who's never gone through that experience like I have. I look at things through a different lens sometimes because my brain has been trained to do that, and I had to do a lot of unlearning and a lot of like training for my own self to get myself out of that classroom setting. So a lot of you won't have to do that because you didn't go through the 4 years of school training that I did. And they will perpetuate this lie that parents are unqualified to teach their kids. And it's so silly because nobody knows their kids better than their parent. All of that to say, you are perfectly capable and qualified to teach your child. So, lesson of the day, you don't need that piece of paper. All it's gonna do is put you in debt. And it's not going to make you a better homeschool parent at the end of the day. I've heard it compared kind of like home cooking to restaurant cooking, especially chain restaurants. If you go to a chain restaurant anywhere and you order a dish, it's going to taste the same at every single one. But if you go to grandma's house, you're going to get that home cooking and it's so much better. And it's kind of this, it's really the same thing with home education. When you go to public school, you're going to get that public education and it's pretty much going to be the same no matter where you go in the United States. And when you're at home, you have such a richer, better palette of things to feast on, I think, than you do at public school. So there's so many more different options. There's so much more to learn. There's so many more doors you can open, and it's just such a better experience. So lesson for today. Class dismissed. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Happy homeschooling.